So what would an opt-out provision mean for individual states, whether they choose the public option or not? Here to give us his take is Republican Governor of Minnesota, Tim Pawlenty. Governor, he's giving states some control. Does that please you?
Well, I think if you read the fine print, you're going to find that the escape hatch that you described a minute ago is going to be slammed down on the state's head, Brian, because reports coming out of Washington now are you're going to be able to maybe opt out of the benefits, but you're not going to be able to opt out of the taxes that you have to pay in. So that's like dangling a shiny object in the water that's filled with hooks. And Gretchen would appreciate that, being from Minnesota, like a fishing lure.
Right, I grew up near a pond, so I could actually share in that that analogy. But Governor, people are saying, well, if Utah or Minnesota doesn't want it, then they can get out of it. But you're saying they still got to pay into it. It's almost as if you choose a private school, but you still have to pay your school taxes for public school, correct?
Yeah, I mean, think about the choice that they will be putting in front of us, Brian. First of all, these benefits, that so-called benefits, aren't even going to start for 4 years, and everybody's going to pay the tax increases up until then. And then when the benefits start, if you do choose to opt out, it sounds like we all have to continue to pay our taxes, even in a state that opts out. I mean, that's like a terrible Faustian bargain for any state that even consider opting out. So again, it's not really opt-out. It's a bait-and-switch tactic. I called it the other day a sham, and that's what it is. It's very disingenuous.
And we also know, I'm just unclear, and maybe you can help me with this. How do you opt out? Does the governor make that decision? Do you have to put it to a vote? Does the legislator have to put it to a vote? And what if they're of two minds? The Democratic legislator might have one mind, and the Republican another. Governor.
Well, as with all this stuff, we don't know, because they're doing it behind closed doors and only presenting outlines and having verbal, press conferences. So we haven't seen what. But I doubt they will just give it to the governors. They'll require either legislation or a resolution, I think, by the legislature and the governor.
Right.
And it'll require in states a legislative act.
Senator Snowe, Republican from Maine, says, I want the trigger that if private insurance does not hit certain thresholds, then in come the public option. How does Governor Pawlenty feel about the trigger?
Well, first of all, let's call it what it is. The public option is government-run health insurance. And I don't care if it's an opt-in, opt-out, a trigger. It's a bad idea, Brian. The whole thing should be removed from the bill. I want to thank Senator Lieberman and perhaps potentially other courageous conservative Democrats or moderate Democrats who are saying get it out of there. So the focus should be getting it out of the bill completely.
Right.
And they can't get it in completely, so they are desperately trying to figure out ways, opt-in, opt-out, trigger. It's just a bad idea. Get rid of it.
Right. You are certainly acting like a national candidate, weighing in on the big issues of the day for the country beyond Minnesota. So we'll have to talk to you about that on another day. But, Governor, always great seeing you. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome, Brian. Thanks for having me.